Hi, Coach. Congratulations
Hi.
on the win. When Boanga and Son were scoring all the goals you talked about, is somebody else going to be able to score the goals? Other goals came from elsewhere, but it was still those two creating the winning goal. What did you see from them to be able to make their impact without being on the score sheet tonight?
Yeah, but yes and no. I mean, I see other players also creating moments. So it's always going to be a collective effort. It's somewhat natural and logical that the two forwards that are furthest up the field are going to be the ones to finish a play. Not to simplify it too much, but yeah, it's really important. It's really important that we as a collective are dangerous, and I thought we did a good job tonight with some deeper runs from our midfielders, Marky, Timmy. That I was pleased with. That is what we need to break down deeper blocks. When Nate came on, the same. Getting our wingbacks involved with Ryan, set up the first goal. So that is how you break down their deep block, which they're good at. So I was pleased with improvements in that area, and there are other areas of improvement where I wasn't as pleased with.
Hey, Steve. Yeah, some of those areas that maybe you weren't as pleased with. One thing that it seemed is you guys had opportunities, and you got to finish the opportunities so that they aren't coming back at you at 1-1. And I'm just wondering your thoughts on not finishing some of those, and were there difficulties in there, or is that credit to their defending?
A little bit of both. I think it's always tight. If we were as effective with our chances as Austin is, I think we'd never lose a game. I think we played them 3 times this year. They've got maybe 4 shots on goal and 3 goals, which is pretty insane. A couple of those are more errors from us. So overall, I'm happy that we don't concede too many chances. I was not happy with a little bit of some too deep defending at times, and it looks a little dangerous, or it looks from them they're applying pressure, dumping balls in the box. There could be balls that you don't clear, second balls, hand balls, all of those things happen. That's a little unnecessary to me. That comes when you don't get enough pressure on the ball, and when you're just dropping, and that's what Sunday will look like. So that's an area we need to improve on. And when you are sitting a little deeper, then it's also logical that you'll have some moments in transition. And we weren't good in those moments tonight. We weren't good enough. Our decision making to stay in possession, so slow it down, add numbers, move methodically forward, or to play a little cleaner and finish our attacks. We were kind of misfiring in both of those areas, and those are I think the biggest improvements we'll need if we want to win on Sunday.
Steve, I'm sure this is something that hasn't really been on your mind, but is a potential today might have been your last game here coaching, depending on how the playoffs work out. I'm sure you don't want to come back this series, but want to come back later. Thoughts on just the playoff atmosphere? Dodgers playing a World Series game today. Energy was still good in here. And then in turn, this has been such an important part of LAFC's success, being home, playing these big home games, MLS Cup, Open Cup, and things of that nature. Just the potential of having to do this on the road in your last season. How does that kind of go in your mind, I guess?
I'd love it. I prefer always to play in front of our own fans, but there's something, for me at least, being maybe an ex-defender, really fun about winning away. So I'd love it. And we had the experience to win at home, and it would maybe be complete to have that experience away. So we haven't been able to raise a trophy away from home, and we've had a few opportunities. So it's that would be amazing. Yeah, I think I actually realized for the first time maybe this morning that it could be the last game. I'm not really good at reflecting about my own personal situation. I'll work on it. So, yeah, I'm not sure, and I hope it's not on the minds of any of our players. They have enough on their plate.
Steve, over here. How do you think you managed the chaos tonight? Obviously, they got the 1 goal, but it seems like they thrive in that chaos. How do you guys think you managed that?
Okay. Again, I think when teams do that, when the game opens up, we had chances to finish it off. 3-1, but also 2-0, more importantly. And I think that is what we need to focus on. If you are going to sit a little deeper after you take a lead, then your transition game needs to be lethal. It needs to be, or the decision making has to be proper, where you can move forward and start controlling the game with the ball again, especially at home. But just relying on a quick transition, and if it doesn't work, you sit again deeper, that's not a recipe for success. And so, again, those moments we'll talk about and we'll work on.
Nate's introduction to the game seemed to really sort of open up space and create some chances. How do you see him versus a Tillman in the attack versus what you get from both of those guys, and how do you determine who gets the bulk of those minutes?
Yeah, it's you kind of try to foresee what's going to happen in the game. If you need an extra number in midfield to progress the ball, to help progression moving forward in phase 1, 2, before you get into the final third, then a midfielder is advantageous. If it's not a problem to progress the ball, you don't need that extra number in the middle, then maybe an extra attacker makes more sense. And so that's how we go about deciding, who starts and what areas we want to prioritize.
Coach, in a game like this, when Sonny doesn't score but your team still wins the game, what are some things that he does, without scoring that still helps the team?
Yeah, he held up the ball well for us tonight. I think he had connected, our midfield and our attack. If we aren't getting him in positions to score, then I'm a little more worried. But he got a really good look tonight, maybe 2, and that's fine. So I think, his ability to hold up a ball for us and find the right pass to manage the tempo of a game or an attack is really important. So we rely on his intelligence in those moments.
Coach, congratulations on the win. When you score and then Austin doesn't really come out of their low block, they kind of stayed in it even more. Does that present a different challenge then for LAFC to have to then try to figure out the next way to unlock it? Or do you just kind of continue to hammer that same nail in the way that you were doing it before you scored?
No, I think you just keep going. And I think that's another area of improvement where I think when we do get a lead, I think then we need to really maybe push even more and be a little more aggressive to try to knock them over completely. It is a very difficult team to break down. But I do think once you do get a lead, you need to continue doing what you did well, and that was progressing the ball with a little more aggressive fashion and trying to get in behind as much as possible, and that was working.
Hi, Coach. Derek with the Korea Daily. So you just mentioned the Sonny's role in this game, but unlike the last time, both Sonny and Blanca were in the lineup. So what differences did you notice?
Yeah, we're just more dangerous. I think without finishing plays tonight, the two of them were still dangerous and created a lot of dangerous moments. They attract attention, which allows us to get maybe Timmy more in the attack. Both wingbacks found spots in the box. Ryan set up the first goal, so Markey had a couple moments in the box. It allows us to get other players in the box too, and that's what you need to break down a deep block and to really step up the pressure on the opponent.
All right, we're going to finish up with one last one on Zoom. Jim, can you hear us?
Hey, Coach. Nico mentioned that he's going to try to make this game physical. Did you notice them being more physical than in previous meetings with them? I mean, there were some sort of rough fouls, but did you sense a more physical sort of play from them than what you were used to?
Yeah. You look at from the kickoff where Ilya just stepped into Sonny twice, which is ridiculous if you ask me. There's no need for that. But our response was excellent. I think we won't back down for sure. That's not in the DNA of this group. So as long as it's fair, I'm totally fine with it. It's playoffs. Why not?
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Ilya said that he thought Sonny came at him.
Watch it again.
All right.